Not very underwatery, not very Sharknado, maybe. Over the years, I've taught students all sorts of different game builds, but I keep going back to an old favourite as the best way to introduce you to a lot of complex aspects of Scratch, but in a really nice, staged way that's, I think, quite easy to understand. And the game that I'm going to do is one where we have, I call it the fish and shark game. We have a shark, shark chases the fish, and you have to control using keys on the keyboard. So here's the thing, that's what we're going to build in this video. And I want to introduce you first of all, because some of you may be starting from scratch, pardon the pun. So I'm going to have to just walk you through some real basics. Now, the way it works is this. This is Scratch, top right hand corner here where you see this cat. That is where the game will be played. To trigger the game, to start the game, we'll press this green flag to make it go. And then over here in this area, we have where our code is going to go. And we just drag the blocks out to put them there, and we drag them back over there to get rid of them. So this is going to be a fish and shark game. No cats in the fish and shark game. So I don't want that cat, and to get rid of that cat, I'm just going to head down to the little mini version of it here. It said Sprite 1. I thought it'd be called Cat, never mind. But there's a bin there, so we're going to get rid of it. Now, this leaves me with a white background. And this is also, if you look over here, it's sometimes known as the stage, and sometimes I'll use the word backdrop. Backdrop, stage, to me, they're interchangeable words. So if I've used those two words, that's what I'm talking about, the sort of background, if you like. But here is a white background, not suitable for a fish and shark game. We want an underwater scene. Now luckily, right down the bottom here, Scratch comes with the ability to choose some backdrops. And there are options here. You can upload your own, you can go on the internet, save one, upload it, any old picture, you can put that in there. You can get a surprise background, which, not very underwatery, not very Sharknado maybe, but there wouldn't be swimming fish or flying fish. I don't know, it's just not bright background, is it? We'll get rid of it in a second. The other option is that you could paint your own one, and if you want to be very artistic, why not? Or the final one is to choose a backdrop. You'll see this one that we've got here in a moment again. Let's go back to choose a backdrop here. And we have lots of different options. And I can't see the one that we've already got selected randomly, but if I scroll down, maybe we'll spot it. Somewhere, I just have to shout out if you see it. Who's going to shout out first? There it is, Urban. But to the left of that, quite a beautiful twist of events, twist of fate, not events. Anyway, Underwater 1 and Underwater 2. I'm going to go with Underwater 2. I'm going to click on it and look at that. There's an underwater scenario. Now, I'm actually on the stage here. And I can come up to here where it's got code and backdrops and sounds, and we're going to be certainly switching between code and backdrop quite a lot. But on the backdrops here, I find that I've got the original white one, I've got the urban one, and I've got the underwater one. Well, I don't want the white one, so I'm going to click and bin it. I don't want the urban one, I'm going to bin it. So I'm left just with this underwater scenario. I'm going to click on code again right now. Now, I've got a lovely backdrop, so you can choose. It's part of this task, you're going to have to go and get a backdrop. I guess most of you will be going for Underwater 1 or Underwater 2, or if you're feeling very artistic, you could draw one, or if you want to go on the internet and find something more realistic as a backdrop, then go and grab a photograph off Google and use that as your backdrop. It's not difficult to do. Oh, my apologies, it's difficult to do if you do that. On here, just upload a backdrop, try it. So what we do want is that we do want to have a fish and a shark, and we're going to start with the shark. Now once again, down here we had choose a backdrop, and to the left of it we've got choose a sprite. And again, we've got the same icons. We could upload pictures of sharks, or we could have a surprise sprite, which if I click it, gives me a young man there who's called Sam by the looks of it. I think Sam's going to struggle underwater a bit, so let's get rid of Sam by pressing that one there, and Sam has gone. We can paint a shark if we wanted to, or fortunately, I've done this for many years now, choose a sprite. I just happen to know that if I scroll all the way down, it's alphabetical. He says, oh, a pufferfish, not seen that before. Might be a winking pufferfish. I'll be using that one later on. But I've got shark. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's like a hammerhead shark, isn't it? I don't know, it's a bit weird. But I like this one, mainly because he's got 3 different costumes, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So I'm going to click on Shark 2, and he has appeared here. And a moment ago, I said he's got 3 different costumes. Well, we've got code, and just like with the backdrop, we've got costumes, and you can see here there are 3 different types of image for that shark, and we're going to be using those costumes quite a lot. You can see actually they've got funny costumes: Shark 2A, Shark 2B and Shark 2C. Okay, that makes sense because we've got Shark 1 and Shark 2. We're just not using the Shark 1 picture. So here's our first task. I'm going to give you a piece of work to do. Now, what we've got is this. I want the shark, I'll go back to costumes actually. I want the shark to be like this, and he's going to flip. Watch this shark here, watch the big version. I want it to be flipping between those 2 costumes. It's sort of like he's sort of angry and trying to bite, because we're trying to eat fish. So we want that shark to flip between the 2 costumes. So how do we do that? Well, we need to give the game some code. All right, and I'm going to explain to you. I'm not going to do this as watch and repeat. I'm going to give you little tasks to do. Here's your first task. We want to make this shark switch between the 2 costumes so he looks like he's biting away, chomping away. Right, we know that to start the game, we have to press the green flag. And we can find a command when the green flag clicks in the events block here. It's the first one. Now, what we want the shark to do is, in looks here, we have this one down here. It says switch costume 2. And we know that we're going to be, sometimes we want it to be as Shark 2A and sometimes it's Shark 2B. So I'm going to need 2 of those. And you can see the costumes just by, well, we can't actually see the costumes by clicking on them. Never mind, we'll have to go back to costumes here. So Shark 2A, Shark 2B, ignore Shark 2C. So we know that we need a switch costume 2, we need 2A and 2B. But here's the thing. You need to have a little bit of a delay between the 2 of them. So we need another block, and this can be found in control. And that is the block, well, I say it can be found, yeah, found in control, there it is. That is the block at the top here. Wait 1 second. Now you can have fractions of a second. You can put 0.1 if you wanted to, that's like a tenth of a second. But what I want you to do is the following. Now, there are 2 more blocks that are required, but here come the instruction. Here comes the logical order. I want you to start the shark's costume as 2A. I want you to wait a period of time, maybe not a second, maybe not 0.1 of a second. You choose and experiment with how long you should wait before it switched to shark costume 2B. And then you're going to need to repeat that. Now, the temptation is to use this block here, repeat 10, and pull that out and then glue everything together, because things just glue together like this. But actually, if I break them apart again, a bit more room, actually, I don't want to repeat 10 times. I want the shark to do this, well, constantly, to never stop. I wonder what one other word we might see on the left there that might make the shark keep doing this I'm trying not to use the word. Keep doing this all the time, never stop. The whole point being is, can you use the 3 blocks we've got here, grab one more from over here, and then you can right click and you can duplicate blocks. One of those blocks is going to need duplicating. We need one more block, but basically you'll know when you're right, because Mr. Sharky will be in the middle of your screen chomping away, and he won't stop chomping until you press the stop button. Now, if you can't work it out, there's a solution video coming up in a moment, but that's the task. Make the shark start chomping away. Well, hopefully you're not watching this video, but if you are watching this video, it means you couldn't work out the first part of this. It's not a problem. Don't worry. It's always a little bit of a challenge, and that's the great thing. You've tried and you've had a go and it hasn't worked out, but that's how you learn. You learn much better that way, by making mistakes and then finding the solution, rather than just copying what somebody else does on YouTube, for example. So how do we make the shark bite? Well, we want the shark to start with costume 2A. I'm going to make him wait for, I'm going to go with 0.3 of a second. Then we're going to switch to costume 2B. And then what I really wanted to do was have another wait command there of 0.3. And then I need to put that inside a forever loop. And if I do that like so and press my play button, there's my shark biting away in the middle. He's going to keep doing that forever. He's never going to stop biting in my game. Well, not unless I tell him to stop. So that's all there was to this one. And this is how it's going to work. Try it yourself. There'll always be a solution video. And fingers crossed you won't need to see too many solution videos in the future. XY grid, otherwise known as Cartesian coordinates. Okay then, so you should now have a working shark. I've just hit the green flag there, and now you can see the shark is biting away. You might have different timings to me. I've gone for 0.3 seconds there, but it doesn't matter what you have. As long as you've got a shark that's biting away and he's never going to stop because it's in a forever loop, then that's all good. If you haven't got that, then maybe pause the video and just sort that one out. Now the thing is, in the game, eventually we have lots of fish sort of coming in left and right and swimming around, but we don't want a shark that's that big. It's too big for the game, so I'm just going to stop it. I'm going to give you one little thing that you can include. Maybe stop this video in a second and do that, but then we're going to show you how we can move the shark around the screen. I'm going to show you sort of one way that works but that makes the game really quite easy. Then I'm going to show you another way which perhaps you might say is less effective but actually makes the game more of a game. Just trust me on this one. So first of all, how do we make the shark smaller? Well, actually this is really quite straightforward, because over here where we've got the looks button here, if I click on that, then a little bit further down we have the two buttons here that say change size by 10 and set size to 100%. Now I've always found over the years that kids kind of get a little bit confused about which one to use. But the one we want is this set size to 100%, and I'm just going to glue that in there. So when the green flag is clicked, before the shark starts even doing any biting forever, we're going to change his size. Now if I press the green flag, nothing happens, because he's at 100% of the size. But if I were to change this to say a 50, and then I go back and press the green flag, now he's a reasonable size for the game. Now I know where this game's going to go. Personally, I still think he's a bit on the big side for where this game is going to end up. So I'm going to change that and I should stop it first. And I'm going to change that to a 30. And I'm going to press play. Now my shark, even though it's quite a small shark, we're going to have even smaller fish, don't worry. So here's the thing. We now want to make the shark, this task is all about controlling the shark. I want to show you one way which you can do it, but to me, as I said, even though it works really well, it doesn't make for a great game. And it's a really easy one to do. But what we want to do is this. We want to say, and the reason we're doing it this way is I can introduce the fact that we can have, if I do control events even, my apologies, you can have two sets of code that run when the green flag is clicked. In fact, you have lots of different sets of code. But what I want to do is nothing more than, if I get this block here, which says, go to random position, and you're thinking, what do you want that for? Well, because in random position, press the arrow, I can choose mouse pointer. And now you're thinking, oh, the mouse pointer is the cursor, so if I do this and press the green flag, Sharky's going up there because he tried to go to the mouse pointer and he's biting away. But now he's not following that mouse pointer because it only does it once. If, however, we told it to do it all the time or forever again, then actually, press it and look, Mr. Sharky is following my mouse cursor around. Now, actually, that's quite cool, and in many games that's a useful tool. But for this game, it's going to make it too easy, because the whole point is fish are going to come in from the left and right, and if you can just quickly move your shark around like that, you can go, boom, look at that, how quick. It just makes the game far too easy. So we're going to press stop here. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to drop that over here. And then I'm going to give you options about how we're going to control this. Now I'm going to put shark back in the middle, and I'm also going to put a different stage on there just for a moment. So I'm going to add, go back to here, I'm going to choose a backdrop, and I'm going to choose this one all the way down the bottom. XY grid, otherwise known as Cartesian coordinates. Yeah, I never knew what those were either. It was only on some course a couple of years ago and someone said, oh, use your Cartesian coordinates. And everyone looked blankly. And then he went, the XY grid. And I was like, oh, why don't you say that then? Because he wanted to use big words to make himself sound superior. You'll come across that in life quite a lot. Here's the shark. Here, on the orange line here, is the x-axis. And here on the blue line is the y-axis. So if I want the shark to move to the right, I need to increase the value of x. If I want the shark to move to the left, I need to decrease the value of x. If I move it that way, it might be plus 20, plus 10, plus 20, plus 30, plus 40, plus 50. If I move it this way, minus 10, minus 20, minus 30, minus 40, minus 50. The other way round is if I want it to go up, then I will be increasing the value of x. Of y. Gosh, even I got my axes wrong. I'm increasing the value of y. Look, there's a y there. I don't know. Can't even read. Y. See, he threw me with Cartesian coordinates. Dreadful man. Should never have tried to sound so fancy. Plus y, plus 10 on the y, plus 20 on the y, plus 30 on the y, plus 40 on the y, minus 10 on the y, minus 20. You get the idea. Plus x, minus x, plus y, minus y would make the shark move up and down. So, here's the thing. There are two options. Now, I have in events, I go to events, when space key is pressed. I could change that to maybe being the arrow keys. So if the right arrow key is pressed, what I can do in motion is that down here, I've got change x by 10. Now, I'm going to press go, and I'm going to hold down the right arrow. I'm going to press the, look at Mr. Sharky is moving all the way to the right. If I press the left arrow key, nothing happens, because there is no instruction when left arrow key is pressed. But here's the other thing. Now, there are two ways of doing this. I could make 4 blocks when left arrow key is pressed, change the X by -10. I could, if I didn't want it to go so much, I could say maybe 5 at a time. Let me just show you something. If I stop this, bring Mr. Shark all the way over here, and I'm going to press play, but I'm going to hold down my right mouse button. That's how quickly he goes across the screen, just by holding it down. Let's bring Mr. Shark back. Try to bring it back. Stop the game, put him back, and I'm going to make that 10. Now to prove the point, I'll make it 15. I'm going to press play. Now I'm going to hold the right mouse button down. Much faster. So the whole point of that is how much you change X by is how fast it's going to move. In this particular case, I think I'll leave it as 5. So I could have the option of duplicating this and changing that for the left arrow and changing X by -5, and then I can duplicate it again for the up arrow, and I can duplicate it again for the down arrow. There is another way of doing it. The reason being is, look, when I'm not playing, the game's not running yet. The game's not running yet, and I can still move the shark around. The other option, instead of the right arrow and the left arrow, is this. Events. When the game when the green flag is clicked, I can put in a forever loop, and then I can choose an if command, and then I can choose here, it says if, and I've got this shape here, and you're thinking, well, what's that for? Well, over here in sensing, I have if key space pressed. But I could change that to a right arrow, and then I can use the same command of motion, change X by, and I put the 5 in. Now, it's a little bit more complicated, but when I press the key on my keyboard now, nothing happens. It only lets the shark move, just put him back a second, once the game has started. So I'm going to leave it up to you how you want to do it. If you prefer your shark, if I just stop this for a second, to be able to move even if the game hasn't started, fine, knock yourself out. If you prefer it that he doesn't move when the game has started, run with this one. But I want you to make sure the shark can move up, down, left and right. There is going to be a problem. Okay, there is going to be a slight problem that when you move him left, he's moon swimming. To look at what Michael Jackson used to do, if you know who Michael Jackson is. He was famous that he could look like he was walking forwards when he was walking backwards, or the other way around. It was called moonwalking. We'll solve that in the next video, but for the moment, just make the shark go up, down, left and right. Okay then, I'm going to go for the easy option, and it was nothing more than you can actually duplicate entire blocks. Didn't teach you that. I wonder if you might, those people that have done it already, and they say, oh, we've done it, I wonder if they knew about it. So those of you that use the solution video, you've got a bit of an advantage here. Look, you can duplicate entire blocks. So all you have to do here is then go, I'll make that the left arrow, and I'll change the X by -5. Job done. And when you're happy with that, you can duplicate that block. And you can say, I'll press the up arrow and I will change, not X, that one needs to come out, change Y by 5. And then we can duplicate that one, pop that there. If they press the down arrow, we can then change the Y by -5. How cool is that? And now, when I press my green flag, I have a completely, pressing the keys now obviously, moving shark. I'm not happy with this moon swimming going back. We'll deal with that in the next video. But everything else is I'm quite happy with that. So there you go. Go and make sure that you've got, make that happen. And then what I tend to do is I just tend to just put these on top of each other, like so. I've made a folder called Scratch Professional. Yeah, okay. That's subjective, isn't it? Now, most of the time in these videos, I'm going to set you a task to do, and then there's a solution video. But every now and then we get to a little point where I think sometimes it's just easier to do a little bit of housekeeping. We'll think of it that way. Just so that there are certain things that we just need to clear up, and you can just do them and watch and repeat. I'm not going to do this a lot, but there are a couple of things that I want to deal with. If you haven't watched the solution video and you've made a wonderful shark that moves around no problem, then that's great. But you'll notice that you have an awful lot of code here in the middle. So a little bit of housekeeping is that what I tend to do is, because these things about the keys, you can actually sort of drop them on top of each other. And that way it generates a little bit, well, a lot more white space. Now I can clearly see, if I just click on this one for a moment, that there are, if I stop it actually, there are 4 blocks of code here. I can see, you can, well, we can all see there are 4 blocks of code there, so we're happy with that. The other bit of housekeeping that I want you to do is the following. It would be an awful shame now if someone turned your computer off, sat next to you, or you just got up and you walked off and you didn't save your work. So if you're using the desktop version of Scratch like I am here, then you're going to need to save your work. If you're logged in on the web and you're using the website version, which is identical to this, then you don't need to do this. But if you are on the desktop version, please click on File and Save to your computer. When you do that, please don't chuck it on your desktop. Okay, make yourself a folder like I've done in Documents. I've made a folder called Scratch Professional. Yeah, okay, that's subjective, isn't it? I've got one called Sharkfish, and in here I've got a game called Shark Game already, because I've already saved this one, but I've given it a sensible name, Shark Game. I'm going to press cancel so I don't need to save it over the top. But I have already saved this game, okay? You can also press Control S on your keyboard and that will also save the game once you've saved it for the first time. So, go and save your work, please.
You get the idea.
And welcome back. Now, I want to deal with one little nagging problem. This problem. I'm okay with the shark moving up. I'm okay with the shark moving to the right. I'm okay with the shark moving down, but I am not okay with the shark moving to the left. What I really want to happen if the shark moves to the left is that I want to change the direction of the shark. Now, I'm going to press stop, and actually I've put these on top of each other. I need to break them apart now. So I'm going to need the old left arrow and I'm going to need the right arrow. I'll put them down here and we'll put these back up here. Okay, I'll tidy them up in a minute. So the thing is this. When the left arrow is pressed, I want to change the direction. And in motion, fun enough, just here, we've got the one that says point in direction, and I'm going to grab that and I'm going to put that there, and you're thinking it says 90. What does that mean? Well, if I click in the box, it basically comes up with a, well, I think it's a clock face, but it's more like a compass or a protractor. For example, here, if you know your bearings, that's 0. To go right, or point in direction going right, is 90. To point going down is 180. And to point to the left is minus 90. I think 270 would work as well, to be honest with you. But Scratch tends to work with all the way up to 180 and all the way down to minus 118. Well, actually, minus 179, I think it is technically. But what I want to do is I want the shark to point to the left, and this isn't going to work quite correctly. I'm clicking away now. I'm happy going right, I'm happy going up, I'm happy going down. Now it goes left, and it does point in direction, but it goes upside down, like a drunk shark. So why does it rotate like that? And the answer is down here on the direction. And you'll notice here I've got all around, left, right, and do not rotate. Okay, so if I press do not rotate, it won't actually point in any direction. But if I choose left, right, it now does in fact point that way, and is up the right way. So I'm happy with that. That's excellent news. I'm sure you can work out the problem. So I'm happy with it going up, I'm happy with it going down, I'm happy with it going left, but now I'm not happy with it going right. And we have the same problem that we need a point in direction. And this time I want 90 because 90 is to the right. But you can work out the issue if I stop it and press play. If I go up, down, left and right. Oh, I was expecting to have to go and click on direction and do the left right thing again. Obviously I only have to do it the once. So now we're all happy with our shark and its movement and its pointing. So now it is a good time to cover up those blocks or dump them on top of each other. So we've got lots more white space. So this isn't a task video. Well, it is a task and you've got to go and do this, but there isn't going to be a solution video because there's nothing to explain. Just make sure that your shark can move up, down, left, right. It's always pointing in a sensible direction. You've saved your work and you've moved your controls for your shark so they cover each other up. So we've got lots of space to play with. Off you go. But Nemo right off the edge there. Oh look, I got it, 180.
180.
Right, back to the tasks. Now, we have a working shark. It bites, it goes up, it goes down, it goes left, it goes right, it points in the correct direction. But now what we need to do is to introduce some fish into the game for the shark to catch. So how do we do that? Well, it's no different to how we got the shark in. Down the bottom, we can choose a sprite. A sprite is a graphic, same thing. And if you want to find a picture of a fish on the internet, knock yourself out. Surprise isn't going to work because I got a boat. Might be useful actually in the game, but not at the moment. So sailboat, goodbye. And you can paint a fish if you want. Or of course, there's bound to be one in the library. Choose a sprite. And something I didn't point out last time is up here you've got like a menu system. So a fish is a type of animal. And you'll notice that there's a fish down here. In fact, there are several fish when you hover over. I'm just going to come away from it. A little bit disappointing, actually. There used to be more fish. In Scratch 2, there were like 3 different types of fish. This is just one fish with 4 different costumes. So it's like 4 fish in one. Anyway, I need the fish. So I'll click, and there it is. There's my Nemo fish. And you can see that there are 4 different costumes of fish, which is kind of fine. Right, so let's head to the code for this fish. Now, what I want to do is the following. We know that we need to do something in events. Sorry, no, I clicked on control by mistake there. When the green flag is clicked. Now you know how to make that smaller. We've already done it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do it as well. It's going to be set size to, and I'm going to change that to, I'll take it down to 20%, something like that. I'm going to press the green flag just so I get a small fish. There we go. In fact, actually it's a bit too small. Let's make that 30. And I'll press the green flag again. There we go. Nemo's a bit bigger now. So the whole point being is this. Nemo needs to start on the left-hand side of the screen. And Nemo needs to swim all the way to the right. So I need to introduce you to some blocks. So, if I want Nemo to start on this in a particular location, I can use in motion, I can use this go to block. Now, see these numbers here, X and Y. Check out Nemo. If I move them around, it will fill those numbers in automatically. And what you can see here is that on the X, Nemo's at minus 233. Now, if I can get him right, can I get him off the edge? Minus 242. That's weird. I only thought it went to minus 240. Can I get him even further off the edge? Minus 247. I wonder if it's even possible to get him to minus... we can manually... Let's try this. Let's put him in there. Minus 260. Can I make him disappear? No, he doesn't want to like minus 260. Maybe I can minus 250 is the biggest. No, it doesn't like that either. Can't change it there by the looks of it. So, here's the thing. Minus 240, we know, is the edge of the screen. We also know that on the y-axis, he is going to be, well here, the y value is, I was trying to get it to 0, but it's 3. And up here, the y value is 172. But you can actually see that y goes up to 180, so I would put Nemo right off the edge there. Oh look, I got it, 180.
180!
So, down here, right at the bottom, I wonder if this will work. Oh no, that's so annoying, you've actually got to let go of it on the canvas or on the stage. I've got minus 175, but of course it goes down to minus 180.
180!
So, the whole thing is this. The fish, Nemo, needs to go to on the X, it's always going to be minus 240. But on the Y, it can be anything between minus 180 and plus 180. So, how can we do that in there? You know, you'd need something maybe like a random function, and in the operators, there's a random function. And look, we can put that in there. Look, if I do this, this is kind of cool, 1 to 100. I'm going to press this now. Look, big fish, small fish, cardboard box. Ask your teachers, they'll know what that means.
Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. Big fish, little fish, cardboard.
Big fish, small fish, no cardboard box then. But that's because I just threw that in there. Oh, didn't want to do that, did I? That'll be helping you too much. But I can put that block into there. I can put it into anywhere where it highlights in white. So, let's stop the game. What I want you to do is this. I want you to make the fish start in a random position. You know how to do that. And then I want you to make the fish move to the right. But hold the phone. When the right arrow, I've got to move this, maybe I should, when the right arrow is pressed, change X by 5 forever. We've already done that. So on the fish, what I want you to do, and this is your task, is set it to the right size, pick a random position, or make it pick a random position, and then make it swim across the screen by changing the X value all the time. Off you go. Don't forget, there's always a solution video if you can't quite get it to work. Okay, so let's make this fish randomly move all the way to the right. What I'm going to do is go to X minus 240. I'm going to pick a random from minus 180 to 180. And then when it's done that, watch this. Look, there we go. Fish is randomly appearing on the left-hand side. And then what I'm going to do is grab a forever block, and inside it, I'm going to do motion, and I'm going to do change X by, I think I'll change that X by, I don't know, I'm going to go with a low number 3 just to prove a point. There it goes. Mr. Fish is swimming across the screen and he's going to get all the way to the right hand side and then you just see his tail. And he'll do that every time I press the green button. What I really wanted to do is then, once he gets there, maybe disappear and start off again here from a random position. But that's our next task. 60 is bigger than 50. 40 is less than 50. So we've got a fish that randomly appears somewhere on the screen and then he swims all the way across the right hand side, and when he gets there absolutely nothing happens because there's no instruction for anything to happen. I'm just going to press stop for a moment. You see, the thing is, what I really want to happen is for the fish to swim across, and if he gets to that side then go back to the beginning and randomly appear somewhere else. So he's going that way and then maybe he comes back and he goes that way. And the whole point is the shark has got to try and catch him. So how can I make it so that if the fish gets to here, then go back to the beginning? Well, here we go. There's a command here that says in control, if. And what we have is the following. If I am on the fish and I go to motion, down the very bottom of motion, but I'll pull it to the top now, is X position, Y position and direction. So at any moment in time, Scratch knows the X position of the fish, the Y position of the fish and the direction that it's travelling in. So here's the thing. If the X value or the X position of the fish is greater than, now we know that the edge is 240. Now my fish is only changing by 3 each time, so it goes, if he starts from the middle here, 3, 6, 9, 12, I'm not going to carry on to 240, that will take a long time. But the whole point being is that I don't know the exact number because I don't know my 3 times tables. But one thing I do know is if the edge is 240, then the fish is going to be, once it hits 200, once it goes above 230 of the X value, it's pretty close to the edge. So what we can say is if the X position of the fish is more than 230, then go back to the beginning and start again. But here's the thing. All you really need is one operator. Now let's get this right. Let's deal with something that I have a problem with lots of students. I'm going to pull these two out here. 60 is bigger than 50. 40 is less than 50. And I think the rule in maths is, isn't it the crocodile eats the bigger number? Because look, that looks like, that looks like a crocodile's mouth, then the 60 is bigger than the 50, so the crocodile eats the bigger number. And here, the 40 is, I'm patronising, aren't I? 50 is bigger than 40, 50 is the bigger number, eat it. 60 is the bigger number, eat it. But the one thing is for sure, what we have said is that, if we just pop that back over there for the moment, so I don't want to give it to you. We want to say if the X position of the fish is greater than, bigger than 230, go back to the beginning and start again. Go back to the beginning and pick around. We already have that. Look. And you can right click and duplicate blocks. I'll put it down there. So that's my task. You're going to change this so that the fish is going to swim to the right, and when he gets to the right, he's going to randomly go back to the beginning and swim again from somewhere new. See if you can make it work. Okay then, one solution. So here we go. Glue that back, glue that back. In here, I want the greater than operator. I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to go and grab, if I scroll up a bit, the X position. I'm going to put that in there. We said if it was greater than 230, if that is true, then go to there. Now that if block needs to be glued inside here. So let's think about this. It says set my size to this, pick a random position, move by 3, but if you're bigger than 230, then go back to the beginning and start again. And you know what? Watch that fish. I should have maybe changed it from 3 to something a bit bigger, shouldn't I? Look at that. And there he goes. And he's randomly appearing on the left-hand side. And we have our first fish going from left to right that the shark must catch. And I caught it and nothing happened. Because we haven't said for anything to happen when the shark catches the fish. I think that might just be our next task. I'm not even going to tell you how to do it, because you've got good sense. That's a hint. So this is going to be a really short task. We know that the fish will get to the edge and go back to the beginning. But also, what we're going to make happen is if, let's stay on the fish for a second, I've flipped to the code for the shark there. If the fish touches the shark, then I also want it to go back to the beginning. Okay? So that's the task. You're thinking, but you're supposed to show me blocks and stuff. Yeah, but the thing is this. You know the if command, you know the command to make it start at a random position. All you need to find is a command that basically says if, and in here, so I'll tell you what, let's bring an if block out. Can you find a command that says if, and we're on the fish, if I'm touching shark, then go back to the beginning and pick a random location? That's the task. I'm not even going to tell you how to do it, because you've got good sense. That's a hint. So that was possibly the shortest task video, followed by the shortest solution video. We already have this block here, which I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to put in there. All I need is if touching shark. And the hint was you use your sense, because it's in sensing. And there's one here that says touching mouse pointer. Now if I drag that out, I can change that to shark 2. And now I can put that in there. So now the command is saying forever, move 3, but if you get right over the right hand side, go back to the beginning. But if you touch the shark, go back to the beginning. And to prove to you it works, I've got to catch that fish. Got it. And now I'm going to catch that fish. Gotcha. Now it becomes a bit of an easy game. If I put my shark over on the left hand side, or the right hand side even, it becomes very easy to do that. We'll solve that in our next videos. But for the moment, that's all I wanted. You eat the fish goes back to the beginning. You miss the fish goes all to the right and goes back to the beginning. If I press play, you're thinking there aren't 3 clones. And there are actually. Look, they're there. Okay, so we have the start of a working game. We've got a fish and a shark, and I can catch. That's going to take a lot, honestly. I'll be able to get that close. Look at that. I'm still catching all the fish. It's not a difficult game, is it? What might be a bit tricky to get that one. Oh, he beat me. But of course, I can catch him up. Got him. But the whole point is, it's really not a difficult game. It might be a lot harder if there were 3 fish swimming across, and trying to catch them all at the same time might be a bit difficult. And that's where we're going to go with this. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, just for aesthetic reasons, is I'm going to get rid of the XY. So I'm going to go down to stage, and I'm going to go across to backdrops, and I'm going to choose the underwater one. And that looks lovely. Look, you can see the shark and the fish. Oh, giant shark. So let's go back to code, and let's go back to the fish. So what I want is, when the game starts, I want to make 3 copies of this fish. Now, you might be thinking, well, okay, why don't you just duplicate that 2 more times, you get 3 fish. And in the first version of Scratch, Scratch 1.4, that was how you had to do things. But in Scratch 2, and it's still in Scratch 3, you're able to clone an object, make copies of it. So to do that, I need to basically do the following. I'm going to break this bit of code apart. And when the green flag is clicked, I don't want to start doing that. I want to make 3 clones. Now, if I press Control and scroll down, right at the bottom I have these 3 blocks, all about clones. I want to create a clone of myself, but I want to do it 3 times. So I need, if I scroll back up, a repeat loop, and put that in there, and I'll do 3. Now, if I press play, you're thinking there aren't 3 clones. There are, actually. Look, they're there. And the 4th one, of course, is the original. So I actually have 4 fish here. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. But when I press play, there are in fact 3 clones there, and the original. But the thing is that I want this to happen on the clones. So, back down where we were, when I start as clones, the block that I need. And now watch what happens. If I press stop, I press go, 3 cloned fish start swimming across the screen. How cool is that? And the shark eats one, and look, I get another one. And if the shark eats one, that's good. I'm quite happy with that. But there's a couple of things that I want to deal with. Number 1, the original fish is still there. And that's a problem because, you know, we don't want it there. We just want the clones. And number 2, when I pressed the game, all 3 clones appeared at the same time. That's somewhat annoying. I might want a bit of a delay between those clones. So 1, how can we get rid of the fish? And 2, how can we have the clones start staggered? Well, this is going to be your task. So let's look at this bits of code. When the green flag is clicked, the original fish will repeat 3 clones of itself, and then the clones will do this. So what I really want to say is the following. Original fish, when the game starts, it needs to be visible. If we go to looks, we could, all the way down the bottom, have these show and hide commands. So when the game starts, the original fish must be visible, then it creates 3 clones, and then the original fish must disappear. But how can we introduce a slight delay? It's as if maybe when we repeat the clone, it goes 1 clone, 2 clone, 3 clone. But what about if we had in control actually at the top there, await command. Await command. Maybe that could be in the loop, but it's going to wait 1 second. But we know about random numbers. But here's something else that you need to know about. Whilst we can have a random number, a delay between 1 and 10 seconds might be a bit too long. But in operators, there's another one here, divided by. And you could put this inside there. Now, that's going to pick a random number between 1 and 10, 5 or 6 or 7. But if you divide that by 10, 5 divided by 10 is 0.5. So that way you can have a delay of like half a second. 7 divided by 10 is 0.7, so that's, well, 0.7 of a second. So what I want you to do is this. Your task is this. I want you to give me 3 clones I want you to make sure the original disappears, and I want those clones to start randomly with a little bit of a delay. Now, where you put that delay, that's up to you. It could possibly go in more than one place in here. It says I've scored 78. Don't remember eating 78 fish. Okay, now before I set you the next task, if you think you've solved the last one, can you check something for me if you didn't use the solution video? When you press the green flag, do you find that your fish sits there for a little while before the 3 clones have been created? Because if you did, it's probably because you have code that looks a bit like this. Okay, you've got code that looks a bit like that. Fish there, 3 clones, then he goes. So the thing here was actually I needed that in the clone. I need to hide the original, do that, and now look what happens. 1, 2, 3 clones. So just make sure you've got that right, because it is annoying to have the original fish there. Now we move on. I think we need a scoring system. We need to keep score every time the shark grabs a fish or eats a fish. So to do that, we're going to basically ask you to do 2 things, and that is to make sure that when the shark eats a fish, the score goes up by 1, and when the game starts, the score is set to 0. So we need a score, and to do that we need to head over here to variables, and when we click on this one we get these options here, and you notice nothing about score because we haven't got a variable called score. So at the top we need to make a variable, and I'm going to call that score, and I'm not concerned about the fact that I've got these 2 options here. I'm just going to leave them alone. I'm going to press OK. Now the only 2 things that have happened are on the left hand side there's a little orange box called score there, and on the game itself the word score and a score there has appeared. And interestingly enough, you can actually right click and you can choose a large readout. It doesn't have the word score in it. Then you can have a slider, which is interesting, because then if I do this and go back to what it was, it says I've scored 78. Don't remember eating 78 fish. So here's the thing. I want you to create a little bit of code here that when the game starts, the score is set to 0. Now, here's a little tip for you. We're going to have score, we're going to have lives, we may have all sorts of other things going on with variables later on in this game. So what I want is I want you to set the game up so that when the game starts the score is 0. But I don't really want that code hidden away on the fish or the shark, so we might have lots of other graphics here. Now the best place that you can drop the code for when the game starts, set the score to 0, is you can actually put it on the stage or the backdrop itself. Now you're thinking, oh, I didn't know that, I just thought it was for making pretty backgrounds. But actually there's a code button here, and in here we can have access to not all of the blocks, but some of the blocks. But I certainly can, when green flag is clicked, go to variables and do something to set the score to 0. So what we want is this, back on the fish. You're going to set it up so when the game starts the score is 0. And every time you eat a fish, you increase the score by 1. That's it. See if you can work out what blocks you need, see if you can work out where they need to go, and as per normal, there's a solution video coming along if you need a bit of extra help. We might have the problem with a fish doing moon swimming. Now here comes quite a meaty challenge for you. What we're going to do is this. Now at the moment, when we start the game, we've got our 3 cloned fish that appear. But I'm thinking that I would like 3 different fish to appear on the right hand side and swim to the left. So we could do this just using this one fish actually, but because I want to keep things a little bit simple, I'm going to do something that I said I wasn't going to do previously, but I think will make the challenge easy enough for you to work out for yourselves. What we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that fish and put it there. Now if I press the green flag, of course I end up with 6 fish. Alright, lovely. Now, the thing is this, on this fish, which you can see down here, I've got fish and fish 2. On this fish, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to looks and I'm going to switch to costume fish. Well, it says fish D. I don't know which fish D is, so no problem. We can click on the costumes and I've got fish A, B, C and D. I'm going to go with fish B. Looks a bit like Dory, doesn't it? So I've got Nemo and Dory. So let's go to fish B. And now when I run it, look at that. I've got 3 Dorys and 3 Nemos. But I want the Dorys to swim from the other side of the tank. So on the Dory fish here, fish 2, can you change this code for me so that the fish swims the other way? Now I think, to be honest with you, don't forget you go to x minus 240, on the other side it's plus 240, isn't it? So change x by 3, that makes it go to the left. How do we make it go to the right? But don't forget, we might have the problem with a fish doing moon swimming. So we might need to use the old point-in direction that we learned back in our first video on the shark. So there's your challenge. Not a lot from me on this one. Get another fish, switch to costume B, and then make it swim from right to left. Big challenge. Off you go. Okay then, let's just stop the game for a moment and let's work on this code here. So I want the fish to start on the right hand side, so the go-to would be, in this particular case, I'm going to start them at 240 there, didn't I? Could go to 280. No, 240 is right. I had a bit of a brain meltdown just then. Happy with the Y position. Forever change X by not 3. Let's go with minus 3. If you want them at the same speed, I'm going to make mine go a little bit faster. Minus 4. If X position is greater than 230. See, I don't want that. I'm going to want not greater than. I'm going to need a less than. I still want the X position, but instead of 230, I want minus 230. So that's the block that goes into there. If that's true, then I need to go to not minus 240, but 240. And I want to go to 240 here if we are touching shark 2. And we'll make the Dory fish, I don't know, we'll make them score at 2. Now this isn't quite right. Watch what happens. Dory fish are going to be swimming backwards. Somewhat annoying. Look, let's catch a quick Dory fish. Look at that. 2 points for a Dory fish. 4 points for a Dory fish. But of course what we need to do is we just need to solve that problem with the fish pointing in the wrong direction. I can do that here. So back on motion, I'm going to need the old point in direction. Change that from 90 all the way around to minus 90. And then I must remember, it was down here, wasn't it, to make sure that I choose left, right. And now, Dory fish are swimming the right way. And they're going a little bit faster than the Nemo fish. Pretty happy with that. I think it's time we now introduce another type of object that you don't want to catch.